Some people come back, but not as themselves. It was the summer of 1964, in a small fishing village in the Florida Keys. My name's Ricky, and I'm telling you a story that my grandfather, Ernie, shared with me years ago, something that happened when he was just 17. Back then, my grandfather lived with his parents, helping out with fishing and selling coconuts. There was no school on the island, so he only learned to read and write when he was 15. He moved in with one of his dad's old friends in town. Let's call him Marvin, a strict but fair bakery owner. In exchange for free lodging and meals, my grandfather worked at the bakery while studying at night. 2 years later, Marvin got sick, something strange and unexplainable. Doctors couldn't figure it out, and traditional healers were no help. Marvin's business went under, and my grandfather had no choice but to return to the island. He was proud, though. At least he now knew enough to read, write, and do simple math. Things went well for a while. He and his father even managed to buy a small boat, enough to take his two closest friends, Ben and Sam, out to sea. Sam was always quiet, but friendly. That is, until he went to visit his father in another town after a death in the family. When Sam returned weeks later, he wasn't the same. He barely left his house. He'd appear only briefly at dusk, and rarely spoke. One afternoon, my grandfather and Ben saw Sam walking along the shore.
Hey Sam, you okay, man? You've been MIA for weeks.
I'm fine, Rick. Really, just needed rest.
You sure? You've been dodging us like the plague.
Sam gave a small shrug and turned away.
I'll see you guys later.
That night, a storm rolled in. Harsh winds and heavy rain that canceled their fishing trip. Ben stayed the night at my grandfather's house. The next morning, they heard news that would shake their town to its core. A fisherman's body had washed ashore near the lighthouse. His stomach had been ripped open and his insides were missing. People whispered about wild animals or revenge from outsiders, but nothing added up. Later that day, Sam finally came by the house. He smelled wrong, like rotting meat mixed with salt water. He spoke with my grandfather and his dad for a while, even smiled, something he hadn't done since coming back. But what no one could explain was the strange look in his eyes, and the way he grinned when they mentioned the murdered fisherman. The next evening, Ben showed up at my grandfather's house, visibly shaken.
Rick, did you hear about what happened near the lighthouse last night? There was another murder, a teenage boy this time, guts ripped out, same as the fisherman.
That boy wasn't a stranger either. He was their age, played pickup basketball with them sometimes. More importantly, he was the same guy who had been competing with Sam for the attention of a girl named Monica. What made it worse? Sam was there at the scene, watching, grinning, just before he vanished into the crowd. That night, as fear spread across the town like wildfire, Grandpa and Ben decided not to go out fishing. The village was tense. Rumors circled about wild beasts, demons, or something worse. People locked their doors early and avoided going out after dark. Then came the town's small annual fair, a temporary escape. Laughter echoed through the dusty streets, and for a while, everyone forgot the horror that haunted their community. Ben, Rick, and a few others hung out at a neighbor's house just outside town. Around 7 p.m., Ben decided to head home. It was early, but dark enough for shadows to stretch across the road. The path home was quiet, too quiet. It cut through a patch of thin forest that seemed to whisper when the wind moved through it. That's when it struck. From the treetops, something leapt, claws first. Ben fell, struggling, gasping. The creature was strong and fast. It pinned him to the dirt.
You stole her from me. Monica was mine. Now you die.
Ben slashed blindly with the pocket knife he always carried. He caught the creature's arm. It let out a chilling scream and staggered back, just as a group of townsfolk approached, their lanterns cutting through the dark. The thing bolted into the trees. Ben collapsed, bleeding from a deep gash on his side. The villagers carried him home. His father grabbed the blood-stained knife, poured oil over it, and set it over fire. A traditional ritual passed down to identify or hurt a shapeshifter. What locals whispered was a skinwalker or worse, an aswang.
If that thing was truly a monster, the burn will worsen its wound.
The next morning, word spread fast. Another body found near the lighthouse, same horrific condition. My grandfather went straight to Ben's house. That's when Ben told him everything. The voice, the accusation, the wound he inflicted.
That voice, it was Sam, I swear it was him.
And when Rick passed Sam on the road that day, he noticed something strange. Sam's left arm was bandaged, swollen. But it was his eyes, dark, wild, and hollow, that said the most. They didn't need more proof. But what they'd soon discover was that this nightmare went far deeper than just one friend turning into a monster. That night, Rick couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, haunted by the image of Sam's bandaged arm and those emotionless eyes. Morning finally came, but the air was thick with something unnatural. When he walked into their living room, his grandfather's father, an old spiritual healer from Georgia everyone called Pops, was already there. No one had seen him in years.
Pops, what are you doing here?
Without a word, the old man grabbed Rick's palm. His expression darkened.
You've been marked. The creatures claimed you.
Rick's heart dropped. Pops didn't wait. He pulled a worn leather pouch from his satchel and began rubbing a strange, pungent oil across Rick's hand while chanting under his breath. A heat spread through his body like wildfire in his veins. Rick collapsed into deep sleep. When he woke up hours later, the town's healer was sitting beside him, arm wrapped in gauze, face pale.
I found it. I found the thing. It attacked me.
You saw it? What was it?
It was Sam. Or what's left of him.
Rick couldn't speak. The truth hit harder than he expected. Sam, his childhood friend, was the killer, the thing tearing people apart. According to the healer, Sam hadn't been born a monster. He was turned, changed. Someone on that island trip infected him. A dark force had passed through his blood, feeding on his jealousy, his rage, and now, his need to kill.
He's too far gone now. If he embraced the curse, he's no longer human. If we don't stop him, he'll keep feeding. He might already be opening a path for something worse.
Later that day, Rick ran into Sam again, this time near the edge of town. He was wearing long sleeves, but his left arm was swollen and stiff.
You okay?
Sam stared at him. No greeting, no smile, just a cold, blank look.
You should have just let her go.
Rick froze. Sam walked away without another word. By sunset, Pops returned with a plan.
Tonight we end this. We'll need bait, and we'll need to trap him where he feeds.
They chose the lighthouse, the scene of every brutal murder. According to Pops, it wasn't just a hideout. It was a gateway, a cursed place that required blood offerings. Sam wasn't just killing, he was feeding something ancient. That night, cloaked in silence, they waited in the shadows. Rick gripped his grandfather's old silver knife, coated in sacred oil. At exactly midnight, they heard it. The growling, the claws, and the voice of Sam, distorted, twisted, inhuman.
You brought this on yourself.
But Sam had no idea. They were ready. The creature stepped into the clearing, moonlight catching the twisted form of what used to be Sam. His eyes glowed faintly, his mouth stretched wide with jagged, unnatural teeth. His body was still human-shaped, but his limbs were longer now. His spine arched like something preparing to pounce. Rick's heart thundered in his chest, but he didn't move. Behind him, Pops stood silently, drawing sigils into the dirt with a burning twig. The wind picked up, cold, unnatural. The trees around them groaned as if warning of something greater approaching.
You shouldn't have come here. This place is mine now.
Then why do you look like you're falling apart?
Sam snarled and lunged. Rick dodged, but the creature was fast, inhumanly fast. It swiped, slicing Rick's shoulder. Pain bloomed across his chest, but he didn't fall. He gripped the silver knife and slashed upward, catching Sam across the same wounded arm. The howl that followed wasn't human.
Now!
The trap was triggered. Flames circled the creature as the ground beneath the lighthouse pulsed, like it was alive. Sigils lit up in the grass, forming a blinding seal. Sam writhed, his voice twisting between screams and words.
You think this ends with me? I was just the gate.
And then came the twist. Behind Sam, a shape emerged from the lighthouse. A massive stone arch that hadn't been there minutes ago. Blood seeped from its cracks. It was the real source, the door. Sam hadn't just been killing, he was making offerings. Each death opened the gate wider. Rick hesitated, realization hitting him.
We have to seal it with his blood.
Sam tried to crawl toward the stone portal, but Rick pinned him. Pops chanted louder. The blade, still slick with cursed blood, pulsed in Rick's hand. With one final motion, Rick plunged the knife into Sam's chest. The earth screamed. The arch exploded into dust and flame, and the creature beneath Rick's hands turned to ash. Then nothing. Silence fell. The moon dimmed. And then, only the sound of waves crashing nearby. Rick looked down at the burn on his hand. The mark had vanished. It was over. At least, that's what they thought. The next morning, Sam's house was gone. The town had no memory of him. Monica never existed. It was like a piece of reality had been wiped clean. Rick remembered, though, because he had been marked, and some doors never stay shut forever. Enjoyed the story? If that ending gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more terrifying true horror stories from around the world, adapted just for you. Stay alert, stay alive, and keep your lights on.